Welcome back to Touring the Multiverse. I'm Miaca, and with me today is Kasi. And we've been looking into one of the Magic the Gathering settings that 5th edition has adopted, Theros.
I can't believe this is the last episode. We've done so much. We've talked about so much. We've learned so much. This is such a great setting. But we'll get into how much we love Theros later and the parts that we didn't care for so much. But before I start talking about Meletis, there are a lot of words that I may mispronounce. Please be gracious in the comments. I am trying my best. We are all trying our best. So patience is key. Thank you. All right, Meletis. This is like, I don't want to say like the main city in Theros, but it's like the most popular. I consider it like headquarters almost. A lot happens here, and there are a lot of people here. This polis is devoted to learning magic and progress. And like I said, basically, think of this as like the golden child of all the cities in Theros. This is the birthplace of the polis, so of basically all cities. Everything started here. So the 12, they are the council of philosophers that rule Meletis, and they were elected by the popular vote. The most senior member of the council is the leader of the council, and currently their name is Herasophia. Philosophy and like philosophers are like very, very important here. They usually come from the wealthy families, and they are supported by different policies and like academies within Meletis and around Meletis. There are like 5 schools that hold all the political and intellectual power. And we're going to break those down now. So we have the Elphidians, and they put magic and philosophy to use. That's their like bread and butter, of course. We have the formalists. They are led by numbers and theories. They strive to create ideal society of peace. They also strive to live in a society where there isn't war or crime. We have the Eurymedians. They emphasize logistical reasoning, and they uphold the theories of ethics and virtue. We have the Nicaeans. They teach reason and destiny. It reminds me of Clothis, the god of destiny. So I'm willing to bet this school, they teach a lot about Clothis, or you're going to see a lot of like statues or see a lot of artwork with her all around.
Mm-hmm.
So then we have the Anapsians. They embrace the delights in life, food, wine, love, friendship, art, and music. So that is what their school is focused on. And I want to go to that school.
Of
I can be
course.
honest.
Why wouldn't you want to go to that school? That's the one I want to go to too.
Exactly. Exactly. We also have a group called the Thaumaturges. These are our most accomplished mages. The mark of a true Thaumaturge is to get some type of gift or positive omen from the god.
All right, cool.
So yeah, so if you are a good one, you're going to get like a good gift or some type of positive omen, yeah, from the god. So that's how you know you're a very accomplished one. The next we have the Reverend Army. This is Meletus's army. They believe in piety, and they are very, very honorable. So around Meletus, we have like a lot of settlements, polises, and some wilderness. They are all a part of like being Meletian. So they are considered Meletian, no matter if you're living in the city or not. If you're like around it in close proximity, you are Meletian. So we have Altrasos, which is a small walled city. This city was famous for Afara's intervention to protect it from a kraken. Her face appeared on the stone walls, and when it did, the walls like grew super high, and the kraken wasn't able to get through. And so now on like a lot of like the settlements and city walls and stuff all around Meletus and like all the surrounding cities, you will see like her face carved into the walls because of how she protected this city one day. So the Kraken wasn't able to get in. So I bet Thassa was very upset about that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Fuming.
Yes.
Steaming. We'll say steaming since she's water.
Yeah. Glaceon, they have a very impressive library, and it's a very small coastal town. Krymnos is home of Anaps, a philosopher who founded the Anapsian school. This attracts philosophers who basically follows his simple life philosophy. I feel like this could be a very funny NPC that they just put here.
Hmm.
All they said was that he has a simple life philosophy and like it attracts philosophers. So you could either be like really funny with this or you could be like super serious. But cool little
Agreed.
NPC.
Yeah.
We have Listes. This is a fortress in the north on the northeastern border. Civilians are not as well trained, but they like to think they are. They're like just a group of people who are like, you know what, we're going to protect this northeastern border right here. They're not like the Reverend Army, but they do their best. Next, we have Natumbria. The residents here train sea animals, so that's cool.
Yeah. I'd like to
Um,
go see that.
yeah, I would visit there too. We have the Neolantin. They are regarded as Meletians, but they see themselves as the people of Olantin, which was a coastal town that was vanished into the sea. Legend has it that Helio smote the polis with his spear because they were too prideful.
Okay.
The Neo-Lanterns were spared, so they make sure to produce sacrifices to Helio now. So, like, they all stood to the side while their city was under attack by this god because he was mad that they were being too prideful when he himself is, like, arrogant as all hell.
Yeah. Oh my
No hate
God.
to those who love Heliod, but it's just like, wow. Next we have Oxus. This is a quiet town. Retired merchants live here. Notable wealthy people also live here. You can also find the tomb of Cainius and Tiro. These were like those that went forth to help create Meletis and like civilization as we know now. Way, way back in the day. Next we got Phalia. This is a small fishing village, and it's kind of known as like the end of the road in Meletis. Like, I guess this is the furthest part you can go. We have Citrum. The buildings are on stilts to accommodate the changing tides. So that's crazy to me. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie A Series of Unfortunate Events with Jim Carrey. Came out like a long
Uh,
time ago.
yeah, I saw it when it first came out. I
Mhm.
have no real memories though.
There's a portion where they go to live with their aunt, and she's like scared of just every single thing. But she
Yeah.
live, yeah, Meryl Streep plays her character, but she lives like on like this house that's built on stilts, like over like rocky water, like an ocean, and it's ridiculous. And so I automatically thought of that.
That sounds
So
exactly like this.
yep. So I would want to go here, but like I'm not staying long. I feel like if I show up, something bad would happen, but be interested, like see what's going on here. And then last we have the Stea. This is kind of like a crossroads, notable for their temple of Karametra. Farmers from the region come here and offer their crops to Karametra. So
Oh
like
no.
a lot, yeah, like a lot going on, and there's so much to explore. And again, this is just like numerous settlements, like small cities around the big city, Meletis. So again, you got a lot of ground to cover.
Mhm.
We have the Laguna Grounds between the northern edge of the Meletian territory, between the sea and the Nessian Wood. You can find these grounds. And I think you touched on them when you were talking about centaurs, right, Casey?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this
Oh,
is
duh, it's right there.
one, yeah, this is one place that the centaurs, one of two place like areas that the centaurs live. Hmm.
Yeah, and I wrote that in my notes. So centaurs roam here. Unlike the Ferris band, the centaurs here are like a little bit more peaceful and they don't engage in the raids like the Ferris band do. So again, just something you can encounter in the specific territory.
It is It is very different than like Satessa that we covered last episode. I am a very nerdy and like knowledge based person and data driven, which makes me want to like this more than I do. I like Satessa better.
Yeah. Right? Like it's like I know this is like the birthplace of the polis, and it's again, there's a lot to do here, and it's like a lot to explore.
And there's
But like,
magic.
yeah, like there's magic, and you're learning, and I don't know, like I'm with you, Casey. I think Satessa is where I would want to be.
Yeah. But if you need to seek any type of knowledge or magic or learn a new thing that's going to, save your people from tragedy and destruction, Meletis is where you're going to go. You're going to go and
Yeah.
seek experts in those areas and seek knowledge. And pretty much any campaign probably has a reason to come to this city. Like there'll be something that connects to this place, with that many different
Yeah.
cities and surrounding areas. It's a lot.
Yeah, like if you like you just said, if you need something, if you need to figure out something fast, you need to make your way to this city because they're gonna have the answer. You're gonna find someone who knows something about whatever issue you're having. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I guess it has its place.
Yeah.
I think it's also maybe like if your campaign starts going awry in that the players want to do a whole bunch of different things, but they actually don't know how to do any of those things, which happens. This is also a place where you could drop an NPC that, has traveled to Meletis and could basically tell the party, you should go to Meletis because you're probably going to find answers there. And then lead your players to this area and then figure out what NPCs you want to have in the city and where you want them to navigate to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's move into Tritons. Oh. We're going to the seas. We're going into the water today.
Yeah. Which is a little terrifying.
So the Triton is actually outside of D&D 5th edition is known as a Greek god of the sea, the son of Poseidon and Amphitrite. Triton lived with his parents in a golden palace in the bottom of the sea, and he often is shown in art or in stories as having a conch shell that he would blow like a trumpet. And while Triton was a Greek god, the term Triton ended up representing like folk that were mermen or merfolk. And this means that they have an upper body of a human and a tailed lower body of a fish. And so it kind of became more of a general term over the years instead of being referred to as like a specific Greek god. But nonetheless, in the D&D 5th edition world, Tritons are a race. So they are described already in Mordenkainen Presents Monsters of the Multiverse as a fantastical, playable race. In this book, the lore is having them originating from the elemental plane of water. Many migrated to the material plane in response to threatening evil elementals. They have become stewards across the world's oceans, from the sea floor to the ocean's surface. They are blue-green in color, with webbed feet and hands and small fins on their calves. The art in this book shows them with beautiful armor in the shapes of shells and scales. And when we move into the Mythic Odysseys of Theros, it outlines Tritons even further as a playable race. And if you've been listening to other episodes in this series, both Miaca and I love the detail of the lore and the descriptions from the Theros book for playable races. So if you see them in other books, I highly recommend checking out the descriptions in the Theros book as well. Even if you're not playing in the Theros world, there's a lot of inspiration there.
Yep.
And good art as well.
Yeah, great art.
So let's dive into that now, and I'll mention the differences between the racial traits in both books when we get to that section. So on Theros, Tritons live in the Siren Sea. Coral is their forests, and the deep caverns in the seabed are their mountains. You might think that they can only survive in water, but they are amphibious, more at home in the water, but they can move on land as well. They are beautiful yet scary. They have scale-covered bodies from yellow-green to blue to purple. Their heads will have crests, and they will have fins on their forearms, calves, and shoulders for efficient mobility through the water. So I kind of feel like they are just a beefed up version of the Monsters of the Multiverse playable race Triton. Like they just mentioned fins on the calves, but here we have fins on the forearms, calves, and shoulders. So just a bigger, better version of the Triton.
Yep.
Their fingers and toes are webbed, and they wear little clothing, but they will don armor for battle, and typically their clothes will be made from items in the ocean. So think, plant life and coral and seashells and those types of things. They call land dwellers dry folk, which I think is hilarious.
Yeah.
And generally consider the dry folks' movements across the water by boat or fishing as an intrusion on their own domain. It results in the endless feud then for Tritons who venture onto land, because then it's the Tritons intruding on the land. And nonetheless, some Triton do decide to make their life on land and enjoy the wind in their face and to create their own destiny there. The polis of Meletis has a prominent Triton community. Tritons are curious folk, which may have been learned from the dry folks' scavenging and treasure hunting ways, meaning they will search shipwrecks for things that catch their eye and then may use it for trade. Tritons may worship many gods, but Thassa, god of the sea, is revered above all. She is the primary god of the pantheon, whose followers will ascend above monsters of the sea and land. So, yes, they acknowledge other gods, but truly Thassa is it for them.
Yeah.
I might be biased a little bit because I also think Thassa is pretty awesome. I mean, terrifying, but awesome.
Yeah, she has a lot of power in this book. It's like,
Yeah.
I don't think y'all are hearing me. She's scary. Be warned.
Right. So Triton names are symbolic and they can change. When they reach adulthood, they may change their name to something else of their choosing that aligns with the adult they have become. And they may change their name again depending on the phase of life they're in. They also have a fluid concept of gender and might switch names as freely as they shift gender identities. So I do appreciate that they added this flavor to at least one race in the world. I don't know if it it had to be the merman that they did it with, but I do appreciate that there is a race that has that gender fluid concept and that you can change your name. I think that's just something very relatable that was missing in 5th edition for races. This isn't really something that is considered as possible, so I can respect it. Yeah, what do you think?
Same here. Like I think I find it to be very inclusive. And so because we also see this in Satessa, like they like a whole city is based off of being fluid within within gender roles and stuff like that. So I agree with you.
Yeah, and that's I'm glad we covered both of those instances just to make them a little bit more known.
Yeah.
What is also interesting, though, that right after discussing that in the book, they then list female names and male names as samples. So I probably would have loved to have just seen names, not necessarily dividing them between female and male, in the sense that they consider gender fluid and they do just change their name. They might pick a male sounding name when they're female. It was just like, why not just put names? But I digress.
Right. Like after saying that, then it's just like, yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah, minor detail, but
Mm.
so let's see. So moving into the racial traits that you get as a Triton. Firstly, unique to the Theros book and not in the Monsters of the Multiverse, your strength, con, and charisma scores all increase by 1. You also reach maturity around age 15, but can live up to 200 years old, which is far longer than a human. Triton, yeah. And nobody is actually an adult at 15. So I find that very, very interesting that then they can still live up to 200.
Yeah.
Tritons tend to be neutral aligned and they ebb and flow depending on what their life looks like, I think. So, described essentially the same in both books, Tritons are slightly shorter than humans, averaging 5 feet tall, and they are medium sized. The Theros book once again offers the rolling size modifier in the book for height and weight, which we have seen with essentially all the other playable races we've discussed from this book. Your walking speed is 30 feet, and your swimming speed is also 30 feet. You can breathe air and water. You have spellcasting ability. So this is something we don't see too often, which is very exciting for the playable races on Theros. This ability is called, very simply, control air and water. So initially, right? It's like, let's not get fancy here.
Yeah.
So initially, you can cast Fog Cloud, and then starting at 3rd level, you can cast Gust of Wind, and then at 5th level, you can also cast Wall of Water. In the Monsters of the Multiverse book, it states Water Walk instead of Wall of Water for this 5th level spell. You can use this ability once per long rest, and the Wall of Water spell is outlined in the book. And so essentially what that is a 3rd level evocation spell that is concentration, range up to 60 feet. You can create a wall of water on the ground at a point you can see within range. You can make the wall up to 30 feet long and 10 foot high and 1 foot thick. Or you can make a ringed wall up to 20 feet in diameter, 20 feet high, and 1 foot thick. The wall vanishes when the spell ends, and the wall's space is difficult terrain. So any ranged weapon attack that enters the wall's space has disadvantage on the attack roll. Fire damage is halved if the fire effect passes through the wall. Spells that deal cold damage that pass through the wall cause the area of the wall they pass through to freeze. Each 5-foot square frozen section has an AC of 5 and 15 hit points. Reducing this frozen section to 0 hit points destroys it. When a section is destroyed, the wall's water doesn't fill it in. It's hefty and complicated in that, okay, because you're trying to then manipulate a wall of water. And you can freeze a wall of water. So, yeah.
That's cool. I think
that. It is. Especially when you can create the ring, you can basically just create a protective ring around your entire party. And then suddenly, the people you're fighting, the creatures you're fighting, are then going to have to use a lot of energy to try to get to you through the wall. And that's just an ability that they have.
Yeah, and that's why I like it so much, because I'm like, I get this for free.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I'll work with it.
Right? And yeah, it's when your spell slots, if you're a spellcaster, are spent, this is one last thing that you can use. Depending on your level, you'll have either up from 1 to 3 options of spells to use once per long rest. Sometimes those things come in handy.
Yep, it's true.
So the Theros book doesn't really go into your spellcasting ability for this trait, but the Monsters of the Multiverse mentions that you use your intelligence, wisdom, or charisma for your spellcasting ability, which makes complete sense. So yeah, I think it's kind of one of those things. Well, it's not actually it's not going to take a spell slot. However, that wall of water spell is a concentration. So I think that's where, you got to consider your spell casting abilities for that. So in addition to that, you do have dark vision of 60 feet. You have resistance to cold damage from adapting to the frigid ocean depths, and can speak, read, and write common and primordial. You are an emissary of the sea. You can communicate simple ideas with beasts that breathe water, and they can understand your words, though you cannot understand them in return. The Monsters of the Multiverse mentions, in addition to beasts, elementals and monstrosities. And instead of defining them as those that can breathe water, it says those that have a swimming speed. So it's like interesting differences in how they describe which, creature you can communicate to. I think you could talk to your DM about whether to include all three instead of just beasts, or however you want to do it. But obviously, these differences between two books describing like something the exact same topic, when there's difference in wording, it just makes me think that there was a bunch of people in the room and some didn't agree that you should describe them as just whatever beast can breathe water. Somebody else was like, no, because da-da-da. So it must be those that have a swimming speed instead.
Yeah.
It's like semantics.
It's like, all right, we want to do this.
It's the same thing. But nonetheless, they were written slightly different depending which book you want to look at. But in the grand scheme of things, they're very, very similar, but you get a ton more lore and inspiration from the Mythic Odysseys of Theros. So I am biased there. Look in that book.
Yep. I'm interested. Yeah, I would want to play as a Triton, a large part because I get that spell that I want to try to like use, and I could like possibly be purple. So
yeah, and the art again in the Theros book is really awesome. It does have two versions of the Triton. It has one kind of more large, muscly male looking version, and then it has more like a Viking warrior style female Triton. So I appreciate the imagery on both so that you can decide what you might want yours to look like.
Okay.
Yeah, cool. I know. I am inspired by them too. I may want to play one someday.
So the Siren Sea. This is Thassa's domain. And a while ago, back when I was talking about Thassa, a saying from this book really stuck with me, and it was Thassa is the sea and the sea is Thassa. So no matter like whenever you see a body of water, you're looking out at sea or a lake or wherever, Thassa is there. She is in control of everything except the Tardix River in the underworld. In the Siren Sea, in the Siren Sea, she likes to hide her things here as well. And I wrote including the entire Triton civilization, but as Casey said, they are in the sea and they are also on land as well. I'm not going to touch too much on Tritons because Casey did such a great job, but just to kind of reiterate, they are devoted servants of Thassa, but they've been also known to follow other gods as well. They protect the sea, hard stop. They're very protective of the sea, which means they're very protective of Thassa. They're cautious and always seek to learn more. And as Casey said, they refer to those landbound as dry folk, which I thought was just hilarious.
It really
like having a Triton in your party, like refer to everyone else as dry folk is just or just like, oh, dry folk. It's like, what does that mean? It's like I need to break it down. But yeah, I love that. So if they're living on land, they are led by priests of Thassa. And so that in and of itself, it could be really cool. Like, or you can make it like a big problem in your campaign. I'm gonna cover the Dacra Isles next. These were created when Corinna, a Triton queen, was killed by a human harpoon. Thassa wept over her, and her tears created these islands. And so these islands, of course, they harbor strange sights and very fierce monsters, and they move. Okay, they just roam as they please. So let's break this down because this is crazy. So the first isle we have is Erexmethes.
All right.
Adam.
That is a tough word.
I know. Erexmethes. So it's a lost island / population that was just wiped out. Apparently, the humans like traveled to this island, Casey, and they were like, you know what, we're gonna like live here. And so they had like a settlement there. Everything was fine, but they didn't realize that they were on the back of a kraken. Of a kraken Erexmethes who woke up and like what do you call it, capsized itself or something like that, like just flipped over and killed, like drowned everyone, just killed everyone.
Oh my god, humans are so dumb.
Yeah. And like wiped out everyone. And so after it did that, it kind of shrugged it off and went back to sleep. And so you will just see this thing just like it's just slowly moving around and it's asleep. And like there are ruins on like the ruins of this like city are like still on this thing as well. And so in the book, you can actually go there if you want to and explore it. But like good luck getting me there because I refuse. I refuse. Like what if it wakes up again? Like that's wild. That's wild.
Like unless you're a flying creature, it's like I'm not interested.
Right, exactly. Next we have Cronemouth Cove. This is a tiny island that is a known entrance to the underworld. So you get here, you have a direct entrance into the underworld. 3 hags guard the entrance, sharing a tongue that seems to have a mind of its own. And so if you know anything about Greek mythology, you know what we're talking about here. So yes, as a DM, you can have a lot of fun if you are ready to send your players into the underworld. And next, Ketaphos appears in Nyx during the day. This is let me remind you that this is an island that's just like roaming around by itself. So it appears in Nyx during the day and in the mortal realm by night. So again, it appears in Nyx during the day and then it will appear in the mortal realm by night. So during the day in the mortal realm, you won't see this island, but at night you will. And they talk about it in the Calafia. I think I said the Califia, which is a book. Yeah, it's like a book of stories, I believe. They talk about this island a bit. They didn't go into it too much in this section, but I thought it was very notable to mention. Next we have Skathos. This is the meeting place for the secret cult of Barika. Rites evolved around eating a magical flower native to the land.
I think we touched on this a few episodes ago because this is also a place that like is ripe with come to this place and eat this magical flower and get like it's basically like come do psychedelics and all of your worries will disappear.
Me being like watched and like observed by Farika, who's like the god of affliction who just likes to experiment on everyone. So
yeah, right.
And deal with her followers too, which is probably even more scary.
Cults, man.
I know. And so yeah, so these are the Dacra Isles that Thassa created from her tears, which is just crazy to me.
Yeah.
Very powerful.
Yeah, like powerful and not really anything good comes from any of them.
Right, like no, like nothing good comes from this.
Like
Like looking at one of
Kennephos might,
them.
yeah, like Kennephos might be there. It might be a bit more of a mystery because there's not as much info, except it's just like deceiving and only appears in certain places at certain times. But the rest is just like nothing good can come from this.
Yeah, I'm just gonna avoid all of that, especially that first one that just wiped out an entire population of people. That's
Yeah.
wild to me. But getting into nautical adventures, so this provides an overview of the wonders and dangers heroes might encounter when traveling the seas of Theros. As a DM, use this if you plan on making your campaign villain Thassa, or if you're planning some type of ocean campaign in Theros, or just use it as like a side quest. You don't have to build a whole campaign around it, but like there's material here for you too if you want to just have like, you know what, we're going out into the water, there's a lot going on, a lot is going on land, we're just going to focus on being out at sea. And
Yeah.
so I'm going to get
And
into some, oh, go ahead, Casey, sorry.
no, sorry. Yeah, and like if you have allowed one of your players to create a Triton and every other player has created a race that has nothing to do with water, and you let that happen because you didn't want to, take away someone's dream to play a Triton. This is kind of a way that you can bring focus to that player and maybe that player's backstory with like inspiration from that.
And again, there's, oh my gosh, there's like a lot to do. I'm excited to get into it.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. I'm going to go over some campaign plans and moves that you can make as a DM. First things first, you got to get out to sea. So, we see, Casey, roll a d10 and we're going to choose from the Adventures at Sea table. And I'm going to roll a d10 too.
Sure. I rolled a 2.
All right, so let's see. So it just says follow an omen that leads out to sea. So I guess again, that's just like, DM's creativity, or, you see what's going on in the campaign and some type of omen from a guy. It doesn't really have to be Thassa, it could just lead you out to sea, I guess. What do you think?
Yep. And it could even be like omens can come from anywhere. You could drop a random encounter of some wild forest creature or swamp creature that just mumbled some nonsense to you, and one of your players takes it as an omen, and you need to go out to sea to figure it out.
Yep, that's a good one.
Good starting point.
I rolled a 1, and it says slay a monster or pirates terrorizing ships at sea. That's perfect.
Yep. Love a good
perfect
pirate campaign, right?
Oh my gosh, I like want to play one so bad. But yeah, that's one way to get your players out to sea. All right. So next, getting lost. Usually the goal in an adventure at sea is to get home. DMs maybe have your players get shipwrecked or find a ship or try to sail it back to the mainland of Theros. Do you have any thoughts on this, Casey?
Oh, and if you have somehow pissed off, say you decide to just do some fishing to feed your like shipmates, and you piss off the Triton community because you fished and you're taking fish from them. They could easily mess with your navigation. And, if somebody's not paying quite attention on the overnight journey, you could be pushed and moved into sailing in the wrong direction. And suddenly you are going in the opposite direction that you thought you were.
There you go. That's a good one. Next is maintaining relationships. And so basically, even though you're out at sea, you can still keep in touch with your NPCs. So let's say like there's a detour to go out to sea and it's gonna be a while, and you left some pretty important NPCs back on land. Here in the Underwaters Adventures portion, it talks about ways to kind of maintain the relationships while you are literally out in like the water. And so I'm just going to read off a few. So you can have like when the characters dream, they might meet other creatures in Nyx. That's interesting. Aquatic or flying characters can visit the characters as they travel, appearing unexpectedly. You can also use magic items too, such as like sending stones and spells, such as animal messenger, to allow characters to stay in touch over long distances. So just little things you can pop in there to maintain those relationships, especially if this is like a detour type of situation in your campaign that's kind of getting out of control.
Yeah, that is very fair and nice to mention, just to give some ideas around that too, that DMs might not think of.
Yeah, I'm thinking like maybe even split the party. Like if the party is split in some way.
Yeah,
Half the party is
exactly.
somehow out at sea. Oh my gosh, that'd be wild.
Yeah,
Um,
well, our party currently in our campaign is split 3 ways, and one of us could have easily ended up at sea for some reason.
That's true. So next we have mythical islands. So the Siren Sea is filled with some crazy mythical islands. DMs try to play around with island environments to keep things interesting. So Casey, I'm gonna need you to roll a D10. I'm gonna roll
Okay.
one too.
Ooh, 10.
Oh, I rolled a 10 as well. Let me roll again. I rolled a 9. We'll go with you first, though. Island environment. Divine refuge. A god created this island to be a personal getaway, making it a reflection of the world as it would appear if they were in complete control. Oh my goodness.
Miaca,
That's
this is your
everything.
dream.
Yes. Literally, that is my dream. Like no one is working. Everyone is just chilling. Like no expectations. Oh, that's a good one though. I
Yep.
like that. Oh man. Okay, so number 9, Promised Land. The island is a gift from a god to a favorite individual or population, specially tailored to suit their whims. That's cute. So yeah, really playing around with the environment here when you're or there when you're out at sea.
Yeah,
Let's
and that
see.
might be what you don't think of necessarily, in that, like, shit, we're on the water. How the hell am I going to bring, any information or any interesting things on the horizon based on the map? Maybe you're just going out and it's like, yeah, you're going to spend 3 weeks at sea. It's
Yeah.
like, well, there is a ton of options here on things that can appear, things that look like islands but aren't islands.
Right, like, oh my God, right? Like, like be careful because there's a lot of stuff going on out there. It's not just water. It's not just
Exactly.
water and fish. Next we have island inhabitants. These types of NPCs matter a lot during a nautical adventure. So roll another D10.
Yeah, 3.
Why am I keep getting like the same thing? Okay, you got 3, I got 1. We'll read yours first. So, island inhabitants, strangers, a species not usually connected to Theros dwells here, such as a Thrycreen, Yuan-Ti, or another creature from the monster manual. That's cool.
Interesting. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
because Theros is very specific. The majority are human, and then there's very specific creatures and or races, and that's it. So
Right.
I like that.
Yeah, me too. I chose 1, and this is called The Last. And so, wait, did I choose 1? No, I didn't choose. I rolled a 1. Yeah. Okay, sorry. Dialing back. All right. So number 1 is The Last. So creatures that think they're the last of their kind, perhaps returned, Leonin, or humans, make their home on the island. That's wild. Like,
Oh my gosh, what a bubble burst.
yeah. And like, what would that look like? It could be like really depressing, or someone would have taken advantage of that situation.
Yeah.
Interesting. So
I would not have thought of that one on my own.
no, me either. And it's like such a simple one too, but it's like, wait, this could happen. Like if you're on a island, show up on an island and like this is going on. All right, so we're gonna get into some island magical properties, and I think this was like my favorite thing to read. So I'm gonna break down like 4 potential islands that you could risk being not stuck on, but like encountering some crazy stuff. So the first one is Bliss Island, and you have a risk of being enchanted and not wanting to leave, and you have to make a DC 10 Wisdom saving throw, or be, let me see, I'm gonna actually read this from the book. So you have to make a DC 10 Wisdom saving throw, or be unwilling to leave the island before finishing another long rest. And so after
geez.
failing this saving throw 3 times, the creature never willingly leaves the island and, if forcibly removed, does everything in its power to return.
Oh,
Jeez.
geez.
So constantly trying to like keeping track of one of your players. Oh my
That would
gosh, at
be
the
so
table.
exhausting.
Oh my gosh, yes. However, a dispel evil in good spell removes this effect from the creature. So it can be
Okay,
dealt if someone has that spell. Yeah,
that's so funny.
that's fun. Next is Swine Island. So you must succeed on a DC Wisdom saving throw or be transformed into a pig. That's too much for me.
And
The
well,
spell.
that one
Okay.
is absurd, but then I can also see how it's Swine Island, but hey, if you need it to be a different animal to fit whatever's going on, it could be, I don't know, it could be Goat Island or
Right, yeah.
you know.
And like the book even says you can use the boar stat block too, which I'm like, okay. And the spell can be removed if you use the spell remove curse. So again, you can get rid of this. Next is Timeless Island. So when characters leave the island after spending at least 1 day there, they might find that time has passed differently for the outside world. The book tells you to use Feywild Time Warp, the Feywild Time Warp table in chapter 2 of the DM's guide to determine how much time has passed.
All right.
That right there.
I hate when time is messed with, but it seems like, especially if you get to a little bit higher level in your campaign, some sort of time fuckery has to happen. Adam does it to us all the time.
Yep. Next is Wild Magic Island. The caster must roll on the Wild Magic search table in the player's handbook, which is in chapter 3.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That's like wild sorcery magic on an island.
Yep. Like, what's happening? This is crazy. I didn't know I could do this. And so now we get underwater adventures. So you may want your players to head underwater, which is cool. They will have the opportunity to explore ruins underwater, looking for shipwrecks, or they may be seeking an audience with Asa, maybe in her palace. So Casey, one more time, roll on I wrote D10, but a D12.
A
You're gonna need a
D12.
D12 for this.
All right.
Mhm.
11.
Ooh, okay, 11. And I rolled a 2. All right. So return a juvenile sea monster caught in a fisher's net to its home. So that was your underwater adventure.
Aw.
Yeah. It's cute. I rolled a 2. Recover the treasure of a hero long ago devoured by a sea beast. Ooh, okay. I'll do that.
Okay.
And I'm
That's
going,
interesting.
yep, and I bet I'm going to encounter that sea beast underwater.
Oh yeah. There's
Yeah.
no way around it.
hmm So yeah, so that's the nautical adventures. It is possible in your campaign. It is possible to interact with the water since the water is such, the seas around Theros are very active. So, yeah, make use of them. That's all I have to
Yeah.
say on that.
It's great. It makes you just think about that a little bit differently. Like, as being a newer DM, the idea of being on the water, especially the open ocean or the sea in the Siren Sea, just seems really overwhelming to try and keep engagement with the players, because it's like, I don't know what to do. A sea creatures attack. Like, I don't know. So
Right.
this is the best part of these like books in fifth edition, is just all this inspiration so that you can make it way more interesting and throw things that you never even believed you could at them. So I would do it all.
Perfect.
All right, we're going to touch on our final monster, Miaca.
No.
This seems so weird.
I know. The final
And
monster.
we're ending on a great note. You will not be horrified or traumatized by this creature, hopefully, and you will have respect for it, Mieka.
All right, let's see.
This is the Hippocamp. This is a beautiful creature of the sea. The art in the Theros book is really cool. They are like a blend of a horse and a fish. So like the top or front half is a horse head with two horse legs with hooves. But the back is a fish, like a fish fin. I've seen, like, if you Google this, you find many different types of fins. Like, it sometimes the back half looks like a shark fin, sometimes it's more like an eel, and then sometimes it's just like a classic fish tail with like a large fin on the top of the body. I've also seen them look a lot like a whale or dolphin's tail. So, put whatever flavor you want on it. I think anything goes.
Yeah, I like it.
And so the hippocamp is considered the noble steed of the sea, serving as guides and mounts to Tritons and other ocean-faring heroes. They naturally travel in herds and are valued in Triton society and are servants to Thassa. They are curious creatures and often are unpredictable in nature. If we look at their stat block, they are a large monstrosity. I truly actually imagine them larger than that, even in my head, but then I remember that they are half horse. So think horse size with just a fin tail.
Yeah.
But they are chaotic good, have an AC of 13, an average of 22 hit points, and a speed of 20 feet, and a swim speed of 30 feet. A mix of above and below average stats, with the lowest in intelligence at -3 and the highest in strength and dex at +2 modifier. They are resistant to cold damage and have dark vision of 120 feet and a passive perception of 10. And they have no languages and are a CR of 1/2. Yeah, they don't don armor. I feel like if you became really connected to one as your steed, you could maybe craft some armor for them. Give them a little bit higher AC. But yeah, they only have 22 hit points. So, they're going to be like, treat them like your mount or your kind of like your partner, or not your partner, your familiar. That's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I would like protect that with my life.
That is what I imagined. I think you would see one and you would instantly fall in love and be like, well, this is mine. I am never letting this creature go. This is now my identity.
Yes. 100%.
So the hippocamp can attack. It attacks with its hoofs, or it uses a ram attack and both will deal bludgeoning damage. And it also has the ability to charge prior to dealing the ram attack for extra bludgeoning damage. And with that charge, there is also the potential to knock the target prone on a failed strength save. So All in all, like there's potential to do 3d6 bludgeoning damage with the charge and ram, or 2d6 bludgeoning damage with the hooves. They are a creature that is amphibious in that it can breathe air and water. If the hippocamp moves at least 20 feet straight toward a target and then hits it with the ram attack on the same turn, that's when it can deal the extra 2d6 bludgeoning damage, and that's when it potentially can get knocked prone on a failed strength save. Apart from those actions with the hoofs and ram, they don't have anything else. They are just a large monstrosity that you will probably fall in love with because it will become your steed. And that's why they're really common with Tritons as well, because they are amphibious and can breathe air and water just like Tritons do too. Yeah, that's it. I really like them.
Yeah, I really like them too. I would definitely have one. I feel like I collect all of the animals in D&D. Like I
Yeah.
have a familiar, I have a cat, I have a dragon.
You really do.
Yes. It's like I forgot I had a cat that I adopted but left back in Westral Shield. Anyways, I don't even think I just like took it home. Anyways. Yeah, I like those Hippocamp. It's nice to kind of end on like, even though like the big like scary monsters are awesome, and we covered like the three big ones that are like were my favorite. It's nice
Yeah.
to kind of end like little little Hippocamp moment.
Yeah.
So
And just reflecting on, not all of the creatures on Theros are just beasts that are scary and intimidating and going to try to hurt you. Some of them can help you.
Yep.
Well,
So
that's it. Can't
Casey,
believe it. Can't believe
yeah,
it, Miaca.
I know. So now that we've covered almost everything in Theros, Casey, how do you feel about it as a setting?
I love it. I think this is going to catch so many people to actually play D&D for the first time, not only with the Magic the Gathering connections, but also just those that love Greek mythology and like Roman mythology too. But if somebody is just a lover of all of that stuff, introduce them to D&D by having them play something in this world and on Theros. It will be a joy.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. I absolutely love this setting. I love Greek mythology. That's my jam. And so to be able to play, and I know it's not Greek mythology, but to be able to play out kind of like an ancient Greek setting in D&D, that just checks like all the boxes for me. I
Yeah.
truly and I like what you said, and I agree. Like for someone just starting out, I feel like Theros is a very good controlled setting of like, okay, here's your introduction to D&D, here's how you play and stuff. And it's like a very controlled setting, but there's so much to do, you know? I feel like with I know with me anyways, when I got started with D&D a few years ago, I was very overwhelmed by
It
what
is.
yeah, by like everything. And so even like running a one shot in Theros or running a campaign in Theros for someone just starting out would be very like helpful, I think.
I
Be
think
cool.
so. And there is just a little bit of relatability in that you might have heard of a lot of these things already. It's just a different flavor on it because this D&D 5th edition.
Yeah.
And even the fact that the world itself is the majority of humans, and then there's a few specific races that are included, it kind of just limits the complicated nature of how many races there are just in the D&D world. So I think that might
Yeah.
also help make it less overwhelming.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Do you like how involved the worship and piety systems are? You kind of hit on those with when we were talking about the gods.
Yeah. I don't I think it would be really challenging to uphold a piety system in all aspects of D&D worlds, but when you're talking about Theros specifically, I think it works and it should be part of it. Because it's all about who you're worshiping drives a lot of what you're doing. And that piety is a big driver of why you are doing what you're doing as well. So I think I like it as part of this specific world.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I kind of sit in the middle of it. I feel like as a DM would have to do a lot of studying, you know what I mean? Or
Yeah.
try to like limit your players to like specific gods that they can choose. And honestly, like I don't think you should try to limit your players. I just feel like, you know, if you're going to run a piety system, you have to know each god inside and out. And like when your player makes a decision, you are constantly having to be like, okay, let me see if this goes against any of like Heliod's you know, beliefs.
Right.
Or it's like it's a lot. So if you're in a situation where you're playing like, you know, maybe in a one shot or something like that, and you've limited it down to like, okay, here are your three gods that you can choose from. I think the system is fine. But if you're going into Theros and you're like, yep, everybody choose a god, you know, get with it, let's go. I think for the DM, that'll be a little bit more difficult, especially if you're like 10 deep at a table. You know what I mean? And
Oh
like each
yeah.
one each one has like a different god that they're yeah, it can get a little out of hand. So yeah, I'm in the middle. I'm kind of like, it depends. And honestly depends on what the table is looking like.
That is an extremely fair point and a very good point to make. It's yeah, because I remember like I was just reminded of when you were talking about all of that and how very simple small things would change piety, and so it would be a constant thing to think of every session all the time.
Yeah, like I feel like someone experienced like Adam. I feel like he, of course, he could like you know memorize that type of stuff and remember that shit like 3 years in the future while you're
I
playing in
know.
this
I don't know
game.
how he does it.
Me either. But like if I was just starting out as a DM, I probably would not have that or you know work on that system. I would probably take that out, honestly. So like
Fair.
for beginner DMs, I would, you know, proceed with caution with that. Don't overwhelm yourself because it can kind of get overwhelming.
Yeah.
Especially if players are like, "Hey, I have this many points of piety. Like, when do I get my thing?" Because you get stuff the further you go up,
Yeah.
and so.
That is another layer to think about.
Mhm. All right. So what was your favorite setting? So maybe like city or we covered so many places.
So many.
Any
I
stick
being okay, so trying to remember where the Satyr party was. That was probably the best. Did we
Oh
cover that
yeah.
like maybe in episode 21 or 22 with the satyrs
Um
and their parties that could last days and you wouldn't even know what happened?
yeah, the
That
skull of
realm.
Vale. Yeah. Yeah, the skull of Vale.
Yeah.
100%.
But that's pretty specific ultimately because I think it would just be absolutely hilarious to do. But in a more broader sense, I'm going to maybe pick the kind of classic answer, but the underworld. Like the underworld is so wild. I would love to go and spend more time there than just like little tiny snips of time. I think
Mm-hmm.
it's yeah.
Okay. I gosh, I can't even choose if I can be honest with you. Um I like Satessa. I would like to spend time there only because I don't know, I would love it for one, and two, I would want to play a character that was a champion of Karametra, so I would definitely like be there.
Uh,
We touched on it before, but I would love to also run around and deal with the realm of the returned and like I don't know, interact with them. Like, again, we covered it. We covered the return in an undead episode, so shameless plug
yeah.
right there. Check it out. But yeah, I would like to just mess around with like the return and like see what they're up to and get involved in some shit and hopefully meet Phoenix because I'm all about him. I love me some
Oh,
Phoenix.
Phoenix.
Yes. So yeah, that's my answer. Speaking of favorite god or goddess, all right, Casey,
This
who
is
was your favorite?
hard.
I know.
I like many of them for many reasons, and I also hate lots of them for many reasons.
Let me see if I can remember each one of them without looking at the book. So we have Helio, the god of the sun, Thassa, the god of the sea, Erebos, god of the underworld, Perforus, god of the forge, Nylia, god of the hunt. Yeah. Afara, god of civilization, Phoenix, he's the trickster god, Mogus, god of slaughter, Clothis, god of destiny, yeah, Karametra, the god of the harvest, Atheros, the god of passage, Kyranos, the god of storms, Pharika, the god of affliction, Erois, the god of war, and Krufix, the god of horizons. Yay!
Oh,
Yes,
impressed.
and
That
so
was nice.
yeah, I'm kind of surprised with myself. I got that. I thought I was gonna mess up with Nylia, but no, she's the god of like the hunt and stuff. Okay, anyway, go ahead.
Um, hmm. I'm gonna say two different ones are probably it's tough.
That's good. Perfectly fine.
Perforus
Hmm.
is one of my top, and maybe it's because it connects with my love of fire giants, and this is where I have landed with the god of the forest. But
Mm.
I like him, and then Thassa, as we talked about in this episode. Like Thassa's phenomenal and just so
Yeah.
vast and so powerful. Yeah.
It's so cool that you chose those two because they are also like friends. Well, to Perforus, Thassa's like they think like he thinks that they're like the best of friends, but Thassa's kind of like, sure, I take pity on you for that one thing that happened, but yeah, I'll take the stuff you make me. So it's so funny that you chose those two,
Love it.
and they get along too. All right, for me, I feel like I've talked about my favorites. Karametra and Phoenix. Like, let's go. I love them.
Yeah,
I feel
Phoenix is
like,
pretty great.
yeah, like with Karametra, I can live out my Persephone dreams. And with Phoenix, I want him to chase me. So
uh,
those
it's the golden mask, isn't it?
yes, it's also the fact that he is a rebel and he just like he's tricky. He has like a way with words, even though he's like not a good guy. Like he's always up to shit. And so I don't know. I find that entertaining.
Mhm.
So yeah, so your least favorite, Casey.
Okay. Again, this is a hard one. I don't. Probably if I listened back to all the episodes, I could clearly see one
Mm.
that I just like have disdain for as we're talking about it, and I just don't remember being that angry. But I don't know. I think I'm like less drawn to Erois and what was his name that we just talked? Oh, and Mogus. I'm kind of less drawn towards their stories, I guess. I'm
Hmm.
more interested in other ones. So,
Okay,
uh,
yeah, that's fair.
yeah. Do you
Um
hate, or hate is, I guess, a strong word. What was your least favorite?
Oh my gosh. Honestly, Keranos, like I get I get his point, but I'm just like not a fan. I'm not like really drawn to that. Like he's a very neutral person. Like he doesn't care about good and he doesn't care about evil. He's like the most neutral you can get. But like I just don't I'm not drawn to him. I'm not saying that he's terrible or anything because I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people who like adore him, but
Yeah.
I'm just not drawn to his cause.
That is fair.
And And probably Mogus as well, if I can be honest. He's just a bit too out there for me, like slaughtering and all that. That's just a little bit too much for me.
Yeah.
So those two. Yeah. What was your favorite monster?
Well, you gotta go with you gotta go with the mythic monsters for this one because they were just
Oh, yeah.
incredible. I think
Mhm.
I love them all, but I think I have to go with Arasta. She was the one
Mm.
that had the armor of spiders. So when you finally did kill her, she would then use her mythic ability to call on her armor of spiders, which would then summon all of her children to just surround her and create a barrier, and she would then have the same hit points again. Like that, the imagery of that happening in a encounter and in combat with her is just so creepy and scary. I just
Oh,
can't.
I would cry because our table would be in battle for like 4 hours of
Yes.
trying to fight this thing and whittle her down to like 0 hit points, only for her to turn around and like get back up. That would just
Yes.
be me. And we're all gonna be down to like 1 hit point. Somebody's making death saves, and then it's like that's where we end for the night, is her getting back up. Like,
Yep.
what?
I know. So good.
Yeah, I know. It's like I love it, but damn it. I really loved Hythonia. It was something
Yeah.
about her.
Yeah.
It's just like so creepy. And I really love that we just talked about it, the whole getting back up after dying situation and then coming back with like I think she comes back with another move, I think.
Yeah,
Or
she
something.
had the shed skin trait where like her skin just like cracks and then she just bursts into a whole, like she just regains all of her hit points.
Oh, right, right. Yeah.
Wild. And
And she's like,
she has the Medusa connection, because
yeah,
the
I was just about to
Medusas,
say that. Hmm.
that was probably one also just in general favorite monster, the Medusas. So good.
Oh, yeah, I love them. Yeah, so yeah, really good. Those three, and then of course we have that the Kraken. Let me see.
Yes. Yeah.
Tromocratus.
Tromocratus.
Yeah, Tromocratus. Yeah.
Yeah, also incredible. Like
Hmm.
just what a wild one. He was the one that got the carapace and the hearts. And so he recharged and then had multiple hearts all over his body that you then had to
Oh
kill
yeah.
or destroy
Yep.
because each of them had 100 hit points. And so it was just like insanity again.
Yeah, we're super strong and just too much. A
Yeah.
lot going on. All right. What playable race is the most interesting to you?
Well, we just covered all of them in the last few episodes. So there is human, centaur, leonin, minotaur, satyr, and triton.
Yep.
So, if I had to pick one that's the most interesting, I would pick Minotaur. But
Mm-hmm.
I think I would love to play as a character a satyr or a minotaur. I may even end up playing a satyr first before a minotaur, depending on what campaign is thrown my way.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, what do you think?
I would okay, so I would like to play as a human first. I want to play as the human because I feel like I would get, not that you don't get the full experience of the gods, but I feel like when you're human, they like, pressure you just a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
So I would be human, and then I really like the Leonin. I like
Yeah.
how, yeah, they're like doing their own thing too. And so walking through this world without aligning myself to a specific god, that would be a lot of fun too. Seeing how, what the world would look like without having to offer up stuff to the gods,
Yeah.
so
Fair.
yeah. All right. It's doubtful that we'll ever see another Theros book, especially for 5th edition. But if we did, what would you like to see included or expanded?
That's so hard. I think they truly did a really good job. I will always want more art. Like every single monster should have art. And I know most of them did, but they did skimp on some. I can't think of them immediately, but
Mhm.
always have art for everything. And there's always more beasts that can be added as well, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I don't know. They added a lot of stuff. They had maps for things. It's tough to say. Feel like they did a good job. I'm sure someone from Magic the Gathering might have a lot to say about what they missed, but for me, I think it was great.
Hmm. I think it was great too. I would like to see a lot of the myths for each god expanded. So on each of the gods' pages, like right underneath of the art, there would be like myths and stories like about them. And I didn't touch on them really because in this series because we would still be sitting here talking about talking through the gods and like their specific stories. But I'm into like, the god stories and like stories that surround each specific god and how they like tie together and like the
I
issues they have with one another,
Yeah, that's fair.
Mhm.
And like you were talking about, I don't think I saw just quickly like trying to flip just to see like what you were talking about with piety and like how many likes, dislikes, who hates who, like what
Mhm.
boosts what decreases what, some sort of like summary reference chart on allies and
Yeah.
enemies between the gods, and then how like a summary on the piety piece could be a really good reference for when you're a DM and you're just trying to double check something. It's like, wait, does that god hate that god?
Mhm. Yeah. No, that's smart. That's super smart. Like like a reference page. We need a reference section.
Totally,
That
because
would.
there is so much connection, good and bad,
Mhm.
between them all.
Yeah. Yep. And that would, like you said, that would help the whole, like, should you be playing with the piety system?
Yeah.
Do you feel comfortable? So something that's at a glance and quick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love a
But
good
other,
summary page.
yeah. And I'm interested to see what other people out there what they would want expanded, or see included if they were to, I really do hope in whatever is next with D&D that they bring this book back, and I would like to see some type of maybe like a secondary thing. If they don't expand on this, like I don't know what it would look like. I don't even know how they would construct it, but I would love to see some type of like Theros part two. Like I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
So,
I agree. We'll see
mhm.
what comes.
Yeah.
That's a
Right.
wrap for our discussion on Theros. I know.
This was fun.
It was such a pleasure to sit down with
Mhm.
you this whole time, Mieka, and hash this out. We
No.
laughed, we got annoyed, we lost respect, we built respect.
Yeah.
We
Yep.
were disturbed and inspired.
Yes. Heavy on the disturb. But definitely inspired.
If you want more information about Theros, remember that there is the episode in the Giants series, a handful of undead episodes, deep dives into the playable races, a whole episode on blessings from the gods, and draconic, monstrosity, constructs, and human monster episodes that all shine spotlights on different parts of this iconic setting. You can check the show notes for the full list below, or head over to itsamimic.com to see the episode guide. Don't forget to check out some of the other series on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and other podcast apps, and become one of our patrons to get access to bonus episodes, book reviews, discussions on homebrewing details, and the It's a Mimic campaign builder.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Touring the Multiverse on the It's a Mimic channels. If you'd like to support us, we have a donate button on our website, itsamimic.com, a store with some It's a Mimic merch, and a Patreon. But one of the best things you can do is share, like, subscribe, comment, leave reviews, and make posts about It's a Mimic and this series. Engagements like that help us create more content for you to consume. But even if you don't, I want to say thanks for listening to It's a Mimic, where you never know what you're going to get.